My name is Jumpy. I hope everyone is doing well today. Like most of my videos, I've got 2 movies to talk about, so let's go. First up, we have Definitely Maybe, a 2008 romantic comedy written and directed by Adam Brooks. I was already thinking about watching this one for a video because it sounded like something I might enjoy. But I wanted some ideas for movies that I might want to revisit for a review video. So I scrolled through my IMDb ratings. By doing this, I realized that I had already seen Definitely Maybe several years ago, and completely forgot ever doing so. I gave it an average rating back then. But based on the dates, this was around the same time I watched the Sylvester Stallone movie Over the Top, in which he plays a truck driver in an arm wrestling tournament. It's also very important to note that this was a double elimination tournament. My point is that not everything can be as memorable as that movie. I figured that once I started rewatching Definitely Maybe, my memories of it would come back to me. Sure enough, I recognized the movie and did remember some things, but not everything. The movie is about Will, who is played by Ryan Reynolds. He and his wife, who we don't see, are in the process of getting a divorce. Will goes to pick up his daughter Maya from school, and she's suddenly very interested in how her parents met and fell in love. Will agrees to tell Maya about her mother, as well as 2 other women that are important to him. He changes names so that Maya won't know which one of the women is her mom. He starts his story back in 1992, when he moves from Wisconsin to New York City. He leaves behind his college girlfriend Emily, played by Elizabeth Banks. When he gets to the big city, he meets the free spirit April, played by Isla Fisher, and Summer, a writer played by Rachel Weisz. The movie was released a couple years after the TV show How I Met Your Mother started airing, so it's not the most unique premise. But it works pretty well here, and the movie does a good job of keeping you guessing. I had forgotten who Will ended up marrying, so I wasn't sure. As a mystery, it succeeds even if the stakes aren't that high. Some of the humor doesn't work. There are way too many jokes that are just kids saying inappropriate things, and those aren't funny. And there's a couple instances of, look at this old technology, isn't it hilarious that it's outdated and we don't use it anymore? The answer to that question is no. Put more effort into your jokes. I never laughed out loud, but I did smile a lot. There are decent jokes in it. The cast is incredibly likable, and that carries the whole thing. The movie is very sweet. There are several really good scenes, like Will practicing his marriage proposal on the rooftop. And quite a few little moments where he reconnects with the women after not seeing them in so long. There's always that hint that maybe she's the one he'll marry. I really like the ending, and what happens makes sense. This is light entertainment, and I can easily see why it didn't stick with me over time. But I did enjoy it more this time around than I did the first time I saw it. And I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Romantic comedies are not my favorite genre, but this is a good one. My second movie is Open 24 Hours, which is a 2018 horror movie written and directed by Padraig Reynolds. I took a chance on this one not knowing what to expect. It's about a woman named Mary. At the start of the movie, she applies for a job at a 24-hour gas station. During the interview with the owner Ed, it's revealed that she got out of prison for a felony a couple weeks prior. When she frankly and calmly says that she set her boyfriend on fire, it's hilarious. He hires her on the spot because the one other applicant was an asshole. Okay, I'll be fair, that's not the only reason. She name drops her parole officer Tom, who's a friend of Ed's, and she pleads that she needs the job and is a good worker. Ed goes with his gut and gives her a chance, and she starts working the graveyard shift that night. Mary suffers from hallucinations of her ex-boyfriend, and of horrible, violent things happening around her. It turns out her ex-boyfriend James is a serial killer, and he isn't dead from being set ablaze, he's just in prison. After Mary shows up at the gas station for work, there's someone running around killing people, and she may be next. I have a lot to say about this one, and I'm giving it its own special spoiler section in a minute. One problem I had with it is that some of the characters are a little too exaggerated. Like Tom the parole officer is too mean to Mary at first, even though he does care about her. And there's also a creepy truck driver that's over the top. And now that I think about it, this isn't the first movie I've seen where a truck driver goes over the top. Vanessa Grasse plays Mary in Open 24 Hours. and her acting is fine most of the time, but she overacts when Mary is scared or lashing out, and those moments aren't great. The hallucination scenes are really weak, aside from one that has a decent jump scare. I've seen this done in so many movies with it trying to blur the line between what's real and what's in her head, and it just comes off as lazy here. But I did like some things, such as the scenes with Bobby, who's a guy who works at the gas station with Mary. He's played by Brendan Fletcher from Freddy vs. Jason. This actor works a lot, but I haven't seen him in anything since I watched Bloodrayne 2. The first Bloodrayne was at least so bad it's good fun, but the sequel was awful. I'm getting off topic. Mary and Bobby have some good moments when they're talking together, like her telling him about James, or little things like how Bobby steals food from the store. Really, the first hour of this movie isn't terrible, but a few good scenes just aren't enough. If it had continued like this, I would have just thrown together a review and then quickly forgotten about it. It would have suffered from the same initial fate as Definitely Maybe for me. But Open 24 Hours becomes more interesting after that first hour. I am going to spoil everything because I need to talk this out and make some sense of what I watched. Skip ahead to the time on screen for my final thoughts. So, spoilers starting now. I want to preface this section by saying that I generally try to avoid being too nitpicky in my videos. I definitely notice little things in movies, especially if I watch them twice in a short period of time. Usually I let them go unless it's something I think is funny and I can make a joke about it, or if it's something that I feel is interesting. But here, I'm gonna fucking go all out because I want to get across how I felt while I was watching this movie. Here's a little more background about these characters that's necessary for this discussion. Mary's ex-boyfriend James killed a lot of women, but she didn't know at first that he was the notorious serial killer. When she finds out, he threatens her and she's afraid to tell anyone. After this, he starts forcing her to watch while he kills every victim. When she's had enough and decides to do something about it, she tries to burn down their house while he's sleeping, but she's unsuccessful at killing him. The movie sets up that Mary is being harassed by the family members of James's victims, and they call her on the phone. A mysterious woman shows up at the gas station, and Mary recognizes her voice as a woman that called her. It's completely obvious that this mysterious woman is really involved in the calls, and that she's somehow related to one of James's victims. On the night the movie takes place, we see the killer attack two people, Deb, who has been Mary's best friend since they were children, and Bobby, and both were seemingly killed. But then the movie goes completely off the rails. Mary is looking around the gas station and she finds Deb and Bobby tied up in the back room. They're both still alive. I didn't see that coming. Mary runs away and bumps into the mysterious woman from earlier. That woman reveals that she's the mother of one of James's victims, and then the woman tries to kill Mary with a knife. At that moment, Mary's parole officer Tom shows up and saves Mary by fatally shooting the mysterious woman. At this point, I didn't know what to think because I knew the movie wasn't even close to being over. Tom reveals that the power went out at the prison and some people, including James, escaped. And this coincidence is so hilariously contrived and lazy that it's amazing. Right on cue, James pops up and knocks out both Tom and Mary. I actually think the movie was clever here in some ways. It made me think that Deb and Bobby had been killed during their attacks. It also made me think that James was probably in Mary's head, since he's locked up and because it's so ridiculous for him to escape. And it seemed a lot more likely that the person running around was just someone related to one of the victims. The movie plays into that very obvious setup, and this removes any consideration in my mind that James was really there. Then it pulls the rug out from under me by killing the mysterious woman and having James be there as well. The movie manages to have it both ways here with two people after Mary at the same time. It's a ridiculous reason for James's escape, but I was delighted when this happened. And it keeps going. Mary wakes up tied to a chair across from Deb, Bobby, and Tom. He forces Mary to watch while he kills Deb and Tom, which makes sense, since that's what he used to do before he got burned up. Right before James can kill Bobby, the creepy truck driver from earlier returns to retrieve his credit card. He intentionally left it behind so that he could get another chance to talk to Mary. James goes out to move the mysterious woman's body and take care of the truck driver if necessary. What follows in the back room is worth discussing in detail because I think it's funny. Alright, so Mary manages to untie herself very quickly, and she goes to untie Bobby, but he tells her to stop, even though it literally would have taken a few seconds. He thinks it's more imperative that she first gets a gun out of the gas station owner Ed's locker. She loudly breaks off the lock with a pipe, which doesn't attract any attention. She opens the locker and doesn't know how to load the gun, so Bobby walks her through it. Then, and only then, when the gun is loaded, Bobby asks her to untie him, which literally only takes a few seconds. Now, this is such an unimportant detail to focus on, and I realize that characters are in a stressful situation, but I'm genuinely confused about why Bobby told her to get the gun first, unless he believed they were actually that crunched for time that a few seconds would have really made a huge difference. And since he knew how to use the gun and had to explain it to her, that means he could have easily loaded it faster than she did, and made up much more time than those extra few seconds it would have taken for her to untie him in the first place. And the weirdest thing about this is that the order in which they did these things doesn't even matter. They accomplished all of these tasks before James gets back. Usually in these kinds of movies, a character will make a bad decision, like choosing to remain tied up, and this decision gets them killed. But not here. This has exactly zero consequences for the characters. It also fails to build suspense, because it keeps cutting to the front of the store with the truck driver, so we know James is still preoccupied with that situation, and isn't coming back, especially after he didn't hear the pipe breaking the lock. After that, instead of Bobby taking the gun, he makes Mary use it. It's obvious he's the one between them who knows how to use it, and there's no good reason why he doesn't have the gun. I guess he just doesn't feel like doing it. He teaches her how to shoot, and even points the gun for her while it's in her hands. I laughed so hard at this. Out front, the truck driver sees the mysterious woman's blood, so he calls 911. They tell him to stay in his car, but he ignores the advice and investigates. At this point, it's the most predictable thing in the world that Mary is going to shoot the truck driver on accident when he opens the door to the back room. But it does another weird twist first. When the truck driver is approaching the back room door, James pops up behind him ready to strike. For a second, again, I didn't know what the fuck the movie was going to do. Then James stabs the truck driver in the neck with the back of a hammer, and the man stumbles and runs into the back room's door, opening it, and that's when Mary shoots the truck driver on accident. So the truck driver thought he was just entering the gas station, but it turns out that he was entering a sick game where he became the prey and got attacked 2 times. Getting stabbed by the hammer and getting shot both could have killed him on their own. So it's almost like he died twice. Which means that the truck driver was part of a double elimination tournament. This is the second time in the movie that it has it both ways and does both things it sets up, and it's absolutely hilarious to me. The shenanigans continue. After seeing the truck driver's body, Bobby immediately asks Mary to give him the gun, which is what he should have done in the first place. And the thing is, her having the gun didn't even change anything. If Bobby had been holding the gun, he also would have shot the truck driver on accident. Mary could have still been distraught about it, and Bobby could have tried to remain calm. I'm trying to piece this all together, and I really feel like I'm not succeeding. After that, a cop shows up and James kills Bobby. And now that I think about it, this isn't the first movie I've seen where Brendan Fletcher gets killed by a serial killer who got set on fire. Then James kills the cop. The momentum keeps going, and at this point I was having a blast with this movie. There's a fun chase scene with James following Mary to a nearby junkyard. The suspense here is actually decent and much better than earlier in the movie. And they go back to the gas station, and the movie rips off the deer scene from Get Out for its big finish. But I'll give Open 24 Hours some credit for setting up the mounted deer head at the beginning of the movie at least. Mary gets a phone and calls 911, but she doesn't say anything. James crawls over, tells her he loves her, and dies. Emergency services doesn't send anyone out to check on the call, which is weird that they ignored that detail. Earlier on, Mary called 911 and hung up, and they called her back to make sure it wasn't a real emergency. So they're a little inconsistent with the 911 here. Plus, they didn't get any report back from the cop who went to investigate the gas station, so they should have followed up. Anyway, Mary falls asleep and wakes up the next morning, and we see the aftermath of everything that happened. It turns out that this is what the audience saw in the opening scene of the movie. Honestly, I was confused when Open 24 Hours started. I thought that Mary got a job at the same gas station where James killed a bunch of people. Then, as the movie went along, I forgot about the opening scene. When the movie ended, I just felt like they had played with time in an unsatisfying way that didn't really add up to anything. But I was right about Mary getting a job at the same place as where James had actually conducted a killing spree. It's just that she got the job and then the killing spree happened. So the order of events was wrong. And this parallels when the order of events was wrong when Mary got the gun and then untied Bobby. So I guess it's a recurring theme in this movie. I get why the movie opens like that. They wanted to make the audience uneasy right off the bat and let you know it's a horror movie. But it makes more sense to me to show something that actually happened in the past instead, like one of Mary's memories of a previous murder that James had committed. Here's what I would have done here. I'd connect the opening murder flashback to the scene with Mary in the gas station when she's filling out the job application. Since Mary is already staring at a mounted deer head in the back room at the start of that scene, the movie could tie the deer to the flashback and have it be what causes her to remember that particular murder. This is an obvious idea, but maybe in that flashback, James tries to force Mary to watch him murder someone, but instead she looks away at a mounted deer head on the wall. Of course, there's already the connection that the deer is dead and James is killing someone and making them dead as well, but I think a deer in both the past and the present would have wrapped it up a little more nicely by giving Mary a reason to remember that particular murder. I did do a lot of nitpicking here because I wanted to figure out what the hell I watched, but honestly, all the things I mentioned in this spoiler section made the movie more entertaining to me, and I was engaged in what was happening. I prefer this so much over being bored. End spoilers. Welcome back if you plan on watching this movie and didn't want it spoiled. I wasn't sure what to make of it when it ended, and writing this review certainly helped me put my thoughts in order. Now I can confidently say that this is a 4 out of 10 movie to me. The first hour or so was nothing special, but there's a very fun 30 minutes at the end. It's mostly so bad it's good, but there are some interesting twists, even if they're sometimes clumsily done, and a little suspense in there that I need to give the movie credit for. If I had a time machine, I would recommend Open 24 Hours to myself from before I saw it. Otherwise, I don't know who I would recommend this movie to. It's really not that great. Definitely Maybe is the better movie of the two that I watched, but Open 24 Hours is more interesting to me. I gave you an idea of what to expect from these, so check out either, neither, or both if you think you'll get anything out of them. As always, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.